just yet.
Nor am I.
Until the captions come up. So we have Spider-Man on the right of your screen. So Timothy Jansen and Drew Idoux, both playing Grixis control, and Timothy Jansen on the right hand, or Jansen.
Is it Jansen or Jansen?
I believe this is Jansen, is my guess.
Jansen, I agree. Timothy Jansen.
Timothy Jansen on the right hand side of the screen is playing my horse in this race, the Chandra Grixis deck. You can totally take the other one. If
I'm not.
like.
I want to take a horse that I want. So
I just want to support Chandra.
Ooh, Life's Finale. I've played Life's Finale in Constructed. That's a gooder.
It's a pretty powerful effect.
Okay, I guess I am going to also be on Timothy Jansen's side because I'm looking forward to seeing him do the full 20 in one moment.
I'm pretty stoked to see this happen.
So for the full 20 effect, Chandra can cast Fork. Yep. Reiterate, is that the other name for Fork? I forget.
Reverberate.
Reverberate, that's it.
So
Chandra
the Firebrand, red and 3 for Planeswalker. +1 ability is deal 1 damage to a creature. -2 ability, or creature or player, -2 ability is copy the next instant or sorcery you play. So activate my Chandra, -2, vengeance you, take 10, game over. So definitely a very powerful way you can beat the Wolfrun decks that aren't really pressuring you in the early turns. If you can land a Chandra and not immediately lose to a Titan, you can just sort of sit there, you're dead.
Yep. One of the things that I actually thought when I first saw Chandra was that it was absolutely terrible because I thought, oh, you just activate the Fork ability and they counter the original and then the spell doesn't even have a copy. But that's not how it works because the way that Chandra works is it sets up this essentially a trigger so that you cast it and then the trigger happens. Right. Mm-hmm. So you do need to have 2 ways to stop a card.
Yeah, countering the original spell does nothing to stop the second one.
Triggers. That was always one of the problems with people that did play Fork way back in the day. And I feel like there was some Mark Justice deck that was like a Demonic Consultation Goblin Grenade Fork deck way back then. But that was a long time ago.
I would not doubt it.
Okay. On the left, Drew, I think you said Idoux? Drew Idoux, if that's how you say it. He is playing the deck that Patrick Chapin and Alex West had together for Worlds and went 5-1 in Chapin's hands and I believe 4-2 in Alex West's hands. We see a Black Cleave Cliffs facing off against a Dark Slick Shores from Drew, then Timothy.
These are the first Grixis control decks we've seen all tournament.
That's true. First,
so we have seen a ton of diversity in this field.
Absolutely.
Which is absolutely awesome. I mean, we've seen this standard format has undergone how many major tournaments so far? It's been pretty remarkable.
And Worlds just happened. It's still like this.
It's pretty amazing that we have a format that can handle so much.
On turn 4, we still have no action besides lands. And Drew finally lays his first blue source. And now, end of the turn, it looks like Timothy is thinking twice.
And I see the Blood Hall in his hand. So,
and there's the Blood Hall. No red sources for Timothy.
It looks like he has a Dragon Skull Summit in his hand, which he could have played instead.
Stensia Bloodhall is a 1x in his deck.
Yeah, a singleton.
End of the turn, we see Forbidden Alchemy.
So, Drew is Alchemy and puts Desperate Ravings in his yard, a fine place for it. The flashback fight is a big part of these control mirrors. You know, as control traditionally has been a fight of card economy and a fight of selection.
Yes.
A fight of mana, and the ability to continue to build up your hand over time with the flashback cards and to hit good things with Forbidden Alchemy. That's a huge part of what's going on here. Is the players who are getting bigger Forbidden Alchemies, basically actually hitting flashback cards with their Forbidden Alchemies, are going to be at a pretty significant edge. So that Blood Hall can just end the game by itself.
Absolutely. Playing in many ways the same role that the Drownyard often plays in slightly older control matchups of this same standard era.
Yep, absolutely. So we saw we actually were just saying that Stensia Bloodhall was the
one we haven't seen.
The only one that we hadn't seen on the big stage, and here's a Bloodhall at least.
And it's in contention for a quite a nice money finish here.
Yeah, I'm super stoked to see this deck. It's definitely something very much in the vein of decks that I've been trying to make work.
I've been trying to make them work too, but I haven't quite gotten them. And I've tried all kinds of different ways, like Burning Vengeance ways. I've tried using, creature-based ways with, like, say, Sphinx and other things, Grave Titan. Because I feel like Black, Blue, Red has such great tools.
Yeah, there's a lot of action going on there. I think that I'm a little surprised to see that Timothy has chosen to not play with Desperate Ravings. He has Think Twice instead, and I think that's one of the biggest pulls to the Grixis deck.
He thinks again for his second time. Now, like, one of the reasons that I like Think Twice in a deck like this is that I like being able to keep a plan going. Mm-hmm. And I do get a little bit worried about Desperate Ravings when I'm trying to build a plan.
Yeah, it's certainly true.
I'm not 100% convinced that you simply don't cast Desperate Ravings sometimes.
So
here we go, turn 5 mana, that Precursor Golem.
Precursor Golem, and that is a go for the throat in Timothy's hand. That is exactly the card you don't... Okay, there's a Doomblade for it, though. And...
he's got, let's see...
So it looks
3 Doomblades in his deck.
Timothy gets to Chandra this turn. Chandra! He didn't cast it!
He's like, hanging back. I think
he didn't cast a Chandra!
I think he wants to keep mana open.
All I wanted to see was a Chandra. My dreams have been crushed. I suppose it's totally reasonable for him to just sit back and try and win with that Blood Haul, but that's just... I mean, he could have just cast Chandra last turn and started going to work.
And another... that's a go for the throat there, right?
Yep. It's interesting to note that the diversity of removal spells is extremely important in matchups like this. If he had... Yeah, actually, those specific 2 removal spells, that go for the throat is basically the only thing in this sort of matchup that is particularly good at removing Olivia.
Another Olivia.
That one he's gonna have to fight over in some way. Oh, he has Snapcaster. He's gonna
Snappy, go for the throat.
Snap go. Help.
And do we have a mana leak? Won't even stop it. Needs 2 mana leaks to stop it.
And he should probably kill the Snapcaster, or that leaves him tapped low.
Oh, there you go.
All right. Well, at least play Chandra now.
Access to Chandra. And there's a mana leak in hand. He says go.
Oh! I'm so disappointed. I don't even know if it's right to cast Chandra there, but I really want him to do it.
I mean, it's scary when somebody has mana open that's blue.
But I mean, his opponent just keeps playing spells. Does he just disagree that this is the correct thing to do, is cast spells? Just wants to sit there? I mean, I guess you can just be on the Blood Haul plan, where all you're trying to do is stop everything your opponent's doing and kill them with Blood Haul eventually. But you're just going to get into a flashback war. You really, if he just has a Chandra in play, it's so much sweeter.
We have the Alchemy.
Ooh, there's a Liliana or another Alchemy.
Liliana goes right to the yard, though. And he draws. That looks like another Snapcaster Mage.
Inferno Titan.
Inferno Titan. Another card that can...
Is there another land to the left of that Sulfur Falls?
I can't tell if there's more land above.
I'm guessing there must be, because he doesn't seem to want to cast anything into... Because it keeps looking like he has one mana open.
I agree. I think he probably has 2 open. Maybe we could try to see if the judge can get the top of the screen, check to see if there's land up there or not. And yes! There's Chandra.
There she is.
Okay, so there is not land.
That was just the one land. All right. Well, Chandra ping to the face. Only
I think
15 more turns.
Chandra, to my mind, is not a red card. It's a blue card with a red mana symbol in its cost.
Yeah, that's a card that definitely is not really the sort of thing that you want in your red decks.
Just doesn't do enough for you.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to be attacking, you want to be pressuring them with burn. You want to be coughing.
Yeah, Chandra is the Urnam Jin of red planeswalkers.
Rah.
Here we go, another land from Drew Idoux. I'm really curious if that's how you say his name. He's going to cast something else every turn. Spell.
I can't tell what that is.
That is a spell going to the yard. Devil's Play for 4, perhaps?
Oh, okay.
And we see a
Mana Leak.
Snapcaster Mana Leak. And he gets to untap.
Is he dead?
Oh,
is he
my
just
God.
dead? The full
Does
20?
he have it?
It is. He's doing it.
The full 20! Oh my goodness. Take 20. Okay, there's like a stunned look at from Drew.
This is awesome.
Soren's
Yes,
Vengeance
it happened. It
copied.
actually happened. That was the coolest thing I've seen all day.
I think that is.
I'm gonna go home. I don't want to watch anything else. That was so cool.
Look at Drew's face. Drew's like, "Are you kidding me?" I think there's a word I'm leaving out there. And Timothy's like, "Yeah, I just 20'd you. I just 20'd you."
What are you at? Not 20. No, you started 20. You haven't gone up. You haven't gained life.
Oh, Drew.
That was awesome.
Oh, Drew takes this intake of breath. Is like, deep sigh, deep sigh.
Will close at the end of this round of sports.
That was a big wow.
So if you want to avoid those long lines that you saw today, check in at the left-hand side of the stage to pre-register for the Legacy Open.
Okay, going to their sideboards, they're fighting basically a black-blue control war with some red cards in there. I think what we're going to see from Drew is we're going to see Dissipate come in, definitely. We're going to see Negate come in, definitely. And he's got 2 surgical extractions, which I actually think are terrible in this kind of fight.
Sure.
But he's going to board them in. He will board them in, because people that run surgical extractions in this format, that they boarded in for this matchup. This kind of matchup.
Right.
On the other side of the table, I think we're going to see Timothy Jansen. I think he might bring in his Mimic Vat.
I can see that. Negates
2
the
negates.
additional Blood Hole for sure.
Yeah, the Blood Hall. And I think he's also going to bring in surgical extractions, and I think it's wrong.
That was so sweet.
That was amazing.
So sweet.
And now Drew is kind of having a laugh about it. Timothy's like, yeah, I killed you with 20 damage all at once.
Boo.
I mean, honestly, I do feel like there's this Peter Parker thing going on where he's just like, yeah, woohoo, swinging from the Empire State Building, woo. They're sideboarding up. It looks like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards from Drew. So he boarded in 7 cards, very, very non-discreetly. His 7 cards, I'm going to guess. We're going to see maybe Flash Freeze, because there are some red cards he wanted to stop. He saw red mana. I think he's going to Dissipate. He's going to Negate. He's going to double Surgical Extraction. And then 2 more cards. I think it might be Mana Leak. And then random card that I'm not thinking about, like maybe Wormcoil Engine.
Well, yeah, maybe.
That's 7 cards win, and I think that's his 7. I could not see how many cards Timothy boarded in, because Timothy was a little bit more cautious about it. Oh, not as much as I thought, because he just has his hand below the camera. He's got the unsleeved sideboard. Swap in, swap out. One of the things, I'm not sure about you, but I try to be very careful about how I have my sideboard in main,
absolutely.
so that I don't give that information away.
There are so many ways that players inadvertently give information to their opponents. One of the things that I see all the time, is players just they go and they go sit down to their match and they just put their score pad on the table. And the amount of times I'm able to sit down and look at my opponent's score pad and deduce by the life changes from their previous games what they're playing is enormous.
Yes.
You're giving out there, don't do that.
You're giving away all the tech, Brian. Come on.
Pull the page you used off, fold it back, whatever. Don't just give free information to your opponents. You're basically just like, here, you want to figure out what I'm playing? If anything, like, use 2 life pads and swap between them. You know, have one that has like life totals from a completely different deck you're playing. It's just like, oh wow, he gained 5 life. He must be playing, Baneslayer Angel or something, or Batterskull or whatever. But it's free information. Don't give it out. Pay attention to your opponent's life pads. You can learn a lot.
I mean, one of the things that I think that I really loved was something that a long time ago, you talk about free information. Paul Barclay said that tech wants to be free. And Aaron Forsyth, he says, my ass.
Aaron Forsyth, ladies and gentlemen.
And continuing, he said, Charles Manson wants to be free. Tech doesn't want to be anything. Tech is to be distilled in basements and stored in sunproof bottles and traded for diamonds, missiles, and real estate. Like, don't give away information.
Yeah,
and he says, if tech was free, it wouldn't damn well be tech. It's the same thing with any information. Keep as much information about what you've got going on to yourself when it comes to your match with your opponent.
For sure. I mean, you see people sit down all the time and they're like, oh, like how your previous matches go. And, people, it's totally reasonable to want to be friendly. It's totally reasonable to chat with your opponent. But when you're like, yeah, I lost to this, and you start like mentioning, specific interactions or cards in your deck or anything like that, don't do it. If you're going to talk about that, talk about it after game one. When your opponent has seen your deck, has the information. Don't give them anything for free.
I actually always love to talk about what I've lost to if I'm not at the undefeated bracket. Mm-hmm. But, talk about it in ways that I'm pretty sure will mislead my opponent. Sure. I don't like to lie to my opponent because I feel like that's kind of not nice.
Sure.
But what I do like to do is what I do like to do is I do like to be like, oh yeah, I lost because it seemed like I had a good hand, but it didn't end up being that good. So I'm not saying anything. And my opponent's like, oh yeah, I lost to Jund, and they did blah 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 blah, and I just got blown over. But I'm like, oh, okay, it's good to know. So that's not something you're very good against, huh? Okay, maybe you don't have Path to Exile in your deck. I got it.
Yeah. So, Timothy's still with a bit of a grin on his face after the last game.
I mean, honestly,
I gotcha.
The thing about a deck like this, right? I bet you that at the end of most rounds, he feels better than he began. He's like, 20 life.
Gotcha.
That's pretty good.
That was so sweet. So very sweet.
I think he ended that game at 37 life.
No, I think he actually ended at 40. I don't think
he took 3 from Inferno Titan. Didn't come into play.
It might have.
I think it came into play.
You might be right.
I mean, there's something to be said. Okay, it says this on my profile on the Star City Games Live commentator page. My favorite decks are decks that demoralize, and a big part of the reason is that if your opponent gets demoralized, sometimes they'll just be like, I can't figure out what to do.
Yeah.
And they could if they just thought for a second, but they're just too mentally tired to try to think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean things like that. It's like you just blow them out completely with a single spell, and they're like, oh, what in the world? What am I supposed to do? And a lot of times, a win like that can get your opponent to focus on the wrong things.
Absolutely.
Because they're constantly trying to avoid, say, dying to Soren's Vengeance and not paying attention to the more important fights. Really, Soren's Vengeance, the Chandra Soren's Vengeance thing is cool and it's powerful, but overall, it's not the most important things going on in this matchup.
The fight that's going on is actually a fight over putting lands into play and stopping a big spell.
Yep. So I definitely think that Timothy overall is advantaged here. He does have both the threat of very powerful stuff going on with Chandra Vengeance, but more importantly, I think are the Blood Halls. I think the Blood Halls threaten to really change the dynamic of this matchup very very significantly because they represent an uncounterable inevitability.
I actually have a disagreement about you slightly.
Okay.
I think that Timothy has the advantage because he has main deck Dissipate and then boards in more counters.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
Right there.
He absolutely has just other angles in which his deck has advantages. But I think the Blood Halls have the potential to be very big. His opponent has to resolve expensive permanents to win. The only things that his opponent can really win with that don't cost 4 or more are Lilianas.
And again, we have the beginning opening plays of land, go, 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 go.
Yep.
And what is this?
That is a Ratchet Bomb, I think.
I cannot tell. I think it is a Ratchet Bomb.
It looks like an artifact and it costs 2. And it looks like Drew does not have a third land.
That might be it. I mean, honestly, if Timothy... Okay, Drew, here's your turn to start top decking lands.
Yep.
I mean, in playing control-ish mirrors, to my mind, the first stage of where the game goes away, does someone miss early land?
Yep. And looks like he did draw land this turn.
There we go. And that he has an Alchemy in his hand, and so Alchemy can find him more lands. Timothy casts Alchemy.
If I were Drew, I would probably Alchemy in response here.
I agree.
If he gets his Alchemy countered, he's in serious trouble.
You might Alchemy after Tim casts his Alchemy.
Yeah.
Don't let him untap.
Sure.
I don't know about that. End of your turn, Idoux?
He could be afraid of a Chandra. He might not want to get just a Chandra played against him. Though Chandra by itself is not that threatening. It's really the Chandra combo Great. I mean, if he's Chandraing card draw spells, that can also be pretty powerful too.
End of your turn, Idoux.
All right.
Is there a mana leak here?
I think Timothy should counter this.
If you have a mana leak, oh, he doesn't, and that's going to get him a land. If he doesn't draw a land from this,
it looks like he has a mana. It's either a mana leak or a negate in his yard. If I were Timothy, I certainly would have Snapcaster and countered that.
yeah, I don't mind tapping out to stop that. And I did not see what he grabbed, but it looks like he's discarding a land, so I imagine he has a land. There it is.
Got to be a land, and he has another alchemy in his hand.
And now Drew is in fine shape.
Yep. He's definitely in a much better position.
That was a moment that Timothy, I think, made a big mistake. End of the turn snap for think? That's a weak snap if that's a snap for think.
I'm a little confused by that.
That's a snap for think. I think twice discount.
I don't buy it.
I don't like it.
I don't buy it.
And now I think he might have to discard if he doesn't draw land.
Well, I mean, I guess that if he was light on land, Snapcastering for that gets the Snapcaster out of his hand, and I mean, he looks like he has a Forbidden Alchemy in his hand.
Yeah. You could just cast Alchemy instead and look for the land. I think what happened there was somebody decided that they had to use their mana efficiently, and that doesn't actually matter a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm. So, and that is I don't know what spell that was.
I cannot tell either.
It looks like a black spell. Let's go for the throat. I think let's go for the throat.
Okay, go for the throat as a pseudo counter.
It's the only black spell that I can imagine him playing that did anything there. So
in comes the Snapcaster. Timothy has drawn a land here, so that's actually very good news for him. It looks like it's going to say a go here. Is that a Geist Flame in his hand or a Devil's Play?
I can't tell.
And now we see a Forbidden Alchemy. I think that this game turned right on its head the moment Timothy let Forbidden Alchemy resolve.
Yeah, I mean, looking at his hand, it seems like he has multiple counter spells that he could have used to stop that Forbidden Alchemy. He even has a Dissipate in his hand. I don't know if that was in his hand at the time, but dissipating that alchemy is super powerful.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if Drew wins this game, I think we can point to that moment. And another moment, casting Snapcaster for Think Twice is efficient use of your mana, but you don't actually need efficient use of your mana. You need to draw your land.
I mean, to be fair, it does put Timothy in a position where he's definitely putting pressure on Drew, and the life total isn't the most important thing going on, but it's not irrelevant, particularly with Soren's Vengeance.
I don't think it's irrelevant, but I do think that the pressure that the Snapcaster places is so long-term that the game will be over because of something else instead.
Yeah, it's certainly true.
And we see a red source here.
But with Bloodhaul in your deck, the damage becomes very, very relevant.
I think that's fair. And here we have the Alchemy, and he's going to be probably looking for land.
And finds one.
There's two lands. He's got a swamp and another one.
Gets to put a Think Twice in his yard.
Let's see what he kept.
I believe it was a Drowned Catacombs.
Okay. Untap. Draws another land.
And
attacks for 2. He's got a Doomblade in Drew Idoux's hand.
I wonder if Drew realizes that. I mean, this is one of the things about playing a deck like Timothy's playing that is a little bit off the radar. Drew's sitting there with a Doomblade in his hand that he's just never going to cast, and Snapcaster is the only target for Doomblade in his deck.
And end of the turn, he casts Forbidden Alchemy in another small maneuver. At this point, Drew has enough land that getting land is absolutely fine, but he might just get an actual spell now.
Yeah.
And he lets 2 lands and a Devil's Play go to the yard? I think that was a Devil's Play. I'm not 100% sure. Covered up. And there's another mountain in his hand. He casts Wormcoil, tapping out. I do not agree with that play at all. There's tapping out, making Mana Leak live.
Yeah,
that was not so good.
That is questionable.
Also, end of the turn, we see Snapcaster what?
For
Think Twice.
He had to at least have an alchemy there, right?
Why not just cast the Think Twice?
Well, he just wants to beat down. 10, 14, he's dead.
Oh, he's dead. Okay. Fair enough.
Right.
His opponent's tapped out. That's it. If you've got the kill, then fine.
Wow. So 2 games straight, we saw Soren's Vengeance just go straight to the dome and just Kill. Drew Idoux.
Let's pretend he did not have that Soren's Vengeance in his hand, because neither of us saw that in his hand. I don't think you make that Snapcaster play like that.
I would strongly consider Snapcastering Forbidden Alchemy there, actually.
Alchemy, absolutely, but
Yeah.
he didn't have the mana for that. Alchemying for Think Twice, he can just spend 3 mana and have the Think Twice.
To be fair, it's also, given that he even has Soren's Vengeance in his deck, it's relevant to get his opponent to 10, and